At the family dinner, Dad leaned toward me, his hand still resting on the knife that had just cut the cake. The room smelled like roasted beef and wine, warm, ordinary, until his voice sliced through it. "Tell me the 200,000 I gave you. What did you do with it?" Forks stopped. Laughter died. I felt my stomach drop, metal slipping from my hand and clattering against porcelain. 200,000, I whispered. "What do you mean?" Across the table, my sister's face turned pale. And 30 minutes later, as flashing lights hit the windows, I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was an ambush. My name's Helen Carter. I'm 31, and for the last 8 years, I've lived in Chicago, where the skyline hums like an engine that never sleeps. I work as a marketing coordinator for a mid-sized fashion brand, a job that pays the bills but doesn't feed the dream I've carried since college, opening my own boutique. I've spent years saving building mock campaigns, sketching store layouts during lunch breaks. It's the kind of dream you whisper to yourself because saying it out loud makes it sound impossible. 3 months ago, my father, Daniel, made it real. He called one night, his voice proud, steady. "Helen, I believe in what you're building. I'm wiring you 800,000, no conditions. Make something that's yours." I remember staring at my phone, speechless. Dad wasn't a man of grand gestures, but when he did something, he meant it. I promised him I'd make it count. Mom, of course, had other thoughts. She's the kind of woman who polishes everything silverware family stories, even our flaws, until they look better than they are. My mother, Linda, has always adored my younger sister, Kristen. Kristen, with her glossy hair and Instagram smile, could do no wrong. She's 3 years younger, the golden child, with a taste for luxury and an eye for shortcuts. I used to think our differences balanced the family. Now I see they divided it. A few days before Dad's 60th birthday, I was packing samples for a pitch meeting when my phone rang. Kristen's name lit up. "Hey," I said, distracted. Her tone was clipped, rehearsed. "Dad's not feeling great," she said. "We're canceling his dinner. No need to fly home." I stopped folding. Canceling. He's been talking about that party for months. "Yeah, well, plans change. Just stay there, okay? He doesn't want a crowd." That last line hit wrong. My father loved a crowd, especially if it meant his daughters were under the same roof. After we hung up, I stared at the wall, unease curling in my stomach. Something in her voice didn't match the words. Kristen had a way of speaking when she was hiding something too fast, too sweet. I opened my banking app, not sure why. My savings looked fine, but a line item caught my eye. A small transfer reference, buried between transactions, vague like someone had tested the system. I couldn't shake the thought that it was connected. That night I called Aunt Ellen, Dad's sister, the only one in this family who never played sides. "Canceled," she repeated, half laughing. "I was at their house yesterday. Your dad was tasting cake flavors." My heart thudded. "So the dinner's still on?" "Of course it is. Why, Kristen told me he was sick." Ellen's voice sharpened. "Honey, he looked perfectly healthy. Don't let her keep you away." I sat there in my small apartment, the city buzzing outside, feeling that old childhood ache, the one that comes from realizing you're the last to know the truth. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Kristen's voice again, too steady, too careful. By morning, the unease had curdled into certainty. I opened my laptop, booked a flight to Salt Lake City, and told my assistant I'd be working remotely for a few days. I didn't tell anyone else. On the plane, I watched clouds drift under the wing and tried to convince myself I was overreacting. But every detail gnawed at me. The canceled dinner, the mystery transfer the way Mom had been quiet lately in our family group chat, just posting hearts under Kristen's photos of designer bags. When I landed, the air felt thinner, cleaner, but heavier somehow. Driving through Sugar House, I passed the same streets I'd biked down as a teenager, each one holding a ghost of who I used to be. The Carters, picture perfect from the outside, polite smiles in every Christmas card. But behind closed doors, Mom's favoritism wasn't subtle. Kristen always got the bigger slice, the newer dress, the louder praise. I used to think staying quiet kept the peace. It only made me invisible. I parked outside the family house and sat in the car for a long minute, gripping the steering wheel. The lights were off, blinds drawn. Maybe Kristen was telling the truth after all. I almost laughed at myself until a faint sound cut through the stillness. Laughter. Multiple voices. I stepped out, heart pounding. The front windows glowed faintly. Through the curtain, I saw silhouettes moving plates on the table, someone carrying a cake. The dinner wasn't canceled, it was happening without me. I rang the bell. The noise inside dipped, then resumed softer. After a long pause, the door opened. Aunt Ellen stood there, eyes widening in relief. Helen. Thank God. I thought you weren't coming. I forced a smile. Neither did they, apparently. Inside, the house smelled of roasted garlic and wine. Music played low. My father was laughing near the fireplace, healthy as ever, shaking hands with a guest. When he saw me, his face lit up with genuine surprise. You came, he said, wrapping me in a hug. Kristen said you were too busy. Too busy. The phrase stung. I looked past him and saw my sister by the dining table, a glass of champagne in her hand, frozen mid-sip. Our eyes met. For a second, her confident smile flickered. Then she recovered, tilting her head. Helen didn't think you'd make it. I wanted to ask why she lied, but the moment wasn't right. Instead, I said lightly, wouldn't miss Dad's big night. Mom appeared from the kitchen, her smile too wide. We were just setting another place. She lied effortlessly. Ellen leaned close, whispering, your sister's been spending like crazy lately. New bags, Paris trip, the works. My eyes followed Kristen across the room. Her diamond earrings caught the light like tiny spotlights on guilt. Everyone acted normal, but the air was tight, full of things unsaid. As dinner started, I noticed how Mom and Kristen kept glancing at each other, how their laughter sounded a beat too late. Dad chatted with guests, unaware of the quiet current running beneath the table. And as the cake came out, candles flickering gold, Dad smiled at me. Then his expression changed. He set down his glass, leaned forward, and the room went still. Dad's voice broke the chatter like glass. Helen, he said, steady but sharp before we cut the cake, there's something I need to ask. Every eye turned to him. Kristen's fork hovered midair. I smiled faintly, trying to keep it light. What's up, Dad? He leaned forward, elbows on the table. The $200,000 I gave you, what did you do with it? For a second, I thought I'd misheard. The what? The $200,000, he repeated. I sent you and your sister each the same amount separate from your business fund. I wanted you both to have freedom. My fork slipped, clattering against the plate. The sound echoed in the silence. I never got that, Dad. Across from me, Kristen's chair creaked. Her face went pale. She probably just forgot, she said quickly, forcing a laugh that cracked in the middle. You know how busy she is in Chicago. Dad turned his gaze to her. Kristen, I'm talking to Helen. The room froze. Even the birthday candles seemed to flicker slower. My mother reached for her wine glass but didn't drink. I looked at my father. I swear I never saw that money. I thought the $800,000 was everything. Ellen at the far end of the table crossed her arms. Funny, she said softly. I saw Kristen last week with a new Rolex and a Louis Vuitton bag. Paris trip, too. Guess that came from a good investment. Kristen's head snapped toward her. You don't know what you're talking about. Dad's expression darkened. Kristen, he said quietly, where's your sister's money? No one breathed. Kristen stammered. It was a mistake. The account was joint, right, I thought. You thought what Dad's voice was steel now. Mom stood suddenly, her smile brittle. Daniel, please not here. We'll sort it out later. He didn't even look at her. Linda, did you know about this? Her silence was answer enough. My pulse thundered in my ears. It was all happening in slow motion, the dinner guests shrinking into the background, Kristen's mascara smudging as she blinked too fast, my father's disappointment heavy enough to crush stone. Ellen placed her napkin down. I have receipts, she said. Credit statements, purchase logs. Kristen's been burning through money like gasoline. Mom's voice cracked. She just needed help. Daniel, we were going to replace it before what he interrupted. Before I found out, for the first time in years, I saw my father's temper, quiet, controlled, lethal. He stood, took out his phone, and said calmly, I'm calling the police. Kristen gasped. Dad, no. Please don't do this. He met her eyes unflinching. Family doesn't steal from family. I sat perfectly still. No yelling. No tears. Just the weight of truth, filling every corner of the room. Outside, the night was silent until the faint wail of sirens began to rise, getting closer. And as the blue and red lights painted across the windows, I whispered to myself, "You wanted me gone, Kristen. Congratulations. You just erased yourself instead." The sirens bled through the night, blue and red lights flashing against the dining room walls. Dad still stood at the head of the table, phone in hand. Kristen's face was drained of color. Mom stared at the half-melted cake, as if wishing it could swallow her whole. Dad, Kristen whispered, "Please." It was a mistake. He sat slowly, the calm before a verdict. A mistake is forgetting to send a card. This was theft. Silence. Guests shifted uneasily. Ellen folded her hands, eyes steady on me. "You okay?" she mouthed. I nodded once. 2 police officers entered with a soft knock. "We got a call about a theft," one said. Dad rose again. $200,000. Taken from an account meant for my older daughter, Helen. The officer glanced at me. "Your sister." I swallowed. "Kristen Carter." He opened a notebook. "Let's hear it from the start." Dad explained the $800,000 for my boutique plus $200,000 gifts for each daughter. Helen never touched hers, he said, but her balance is gone. Ellen slid a folder forward. "You'll want these receipts, bank logs, Paris tickets. All Kristen." The shorter officer flipped through pages. "Ms. Carter." He looked at Kristen. She twisted a napkin. "I thought it was mine. The account was joint. I meant to replace it." "With what?" Dad asked, voice low. "Next month's excuses." Tears glazed her eyes. "You gave her $800,000. I just borrowed it." I stared at her. "Borrowed doesn't mean stolen, Kristen." Mom stood, voice trembling. "Daniel, please not here. We can handle this privately." He didn't look at her. "Privately? That's how this started." The officer cleared his throat. "We'll take formal statements." I followed him into Dad's study, the smell of old paper thick in the air. He set down a recorder. "Tell me what happened, ma'am." At the family dinner, I said the words tasting unreal. Dad leaned toward me and asked, "Tell me the $200,000 I gave you. What did you do with it?" I froze and replied, $200,000. "What do you mean?" My sister's face turned pale. He nodded. "And your response now, I never received that money." Not a cent. When I returned, the room felt stripped clean. No chatter, no warmth. Kristen sat rigid, mascara smudged. Mom hovered behind her, one hand on her shoulder, the other trembling. Dad stood by the window light from the patrol car, painting him in red and blue stripes. "Kristen," he said quietly, "you were trusted with family, not just funds. You broke both." She shook her head, sobbing. "I didn't mean intent doesn't erase damage," he said. Ellen rose, voice firm. "Daniel, you did the right thing." They made their choice. The taller officer returned. "We'll need to bring Ms. Kristen Carter and Ms. Linda Carter to the station for further statements." Mom's head snapped up. "You can't take us." "This is our home." "It's routine," the officer replied evenly. "Just procedure." Kristen turned to Dad. "Please stop them. I'll pay it back, I swear." Dad's expression barely shifted. "You can't repay trust." They started toward the door. Kristen twisted to me, tears streaking her cheeks. "Say something, Helen." "Please." I stood. "I already did," I said softly. "You just never listened." They were led outside the front door, closing with a hollow sound that echoed through the house. The guests filed out in awkward silence. The cake still sat in the middle of the table, candles long dead. Dad pressed his palms over his eyes. Ellen placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're protecting what's left," she murmured. He nodded, voice rough. "Family doesn't betray family." I began collecting the broken pieces of a champagne flute from the floor, the glass biting cool against my fingers. I carried the shards to the sink, rinsed away the stickiness, and felt the weight of the night settle into something still a final. The taller officer paused by the doorway. "We'll follow up tomorrow." "You hold up well, Ms. Carter." "I've had practice," I said. Outside, the patrol car rolled away. For the first time in years, the house was quiet. No pretending, no polite laughter. Just the faint tick of Dad's watch on the mantel, the one I'd given him, echoing steady as truth. He picked it up, studied the engraving. "Thank you for believing in me." I'll wear this to the lawyers tomorrow, he said. Good, I replied. It still fits you. Ellen squeezed my hand. Rest, Helen. Tomorrow's the beginning, not the end. I looked at the dark window where my reflection stood alone, outlined by the dying glow of red and blue. No, I said quietly. It's both. And somewhere beyond that silence, the night exhaled. 30 minutes later, the police had come and gone, but the damage, the truth, and the calm after betrayal were all that remained. Months later, I stood in front of the boutique sign that read, Helen's Atelier, its gold letters catching the morning light. Inside, rows of dresses swayed softly under the hum of new beginnings. The money Dad gave me, the money they tried to steal, had built something real. Some nights I still hear his voice at that dinner table, the question that tore everything open. But now it feels like closure, not pain. Betrayal didn't end me. It clarified me. If you've ever had to rebuild after someone you loved broke your trust, share your story below and hit subscribe for more.